infested spongy tumor that he had in his basement that I really just didn't want to touch or be around. Whereas he, saw it as a gateway to life's greatest thrills. And Spectrum games are quite interesting in how they simply operate, like the way they look, the logic in the games.
Hello?
It is fascinating.
Oh.
And for this core, it's interesting too, because it's one of those systems where you actually have to keep in mind what type of CPU you use and overclocking. It's one of the first examples of that. Because different speckies had different clocks, depending on the model.
I didn't use one. I just used one. I didn't use a bunch.
Target higher clocks, but would run on smaller machines or older machines. So you want to look at like the megahertz down there, toggle it around, because the game that looks super choppy to you to the point where like you can't play this. Like, what were they thinking? It might just be that it requires like a near.
Yeah, man, it's they're ants, but they're not on the bread.
Damn, it has probably one of the coolest homebrew scenes in the retro space. I mean, you look at Castlevania, Final Fight gets ported over it. I mean, there was an old Final Fight, which we covered in DF Retro.
I got that. When's the 7th month in July?
Version is just
it's the 5th of July is when this thing expires.
And then you have like the Power Blade 2 port that has like.
And I already took the
subscription
thing off, but I didn't want to hit the thing.
I didn't know the spec could sound like
I thought it was 3 months more, but it was just one more extra month with the bundle. Yeah, I know that. They're close. I know that.
Fans of the system might be interested to check out the ZX Next core, which is a more powerful and modern version of the hardware that has an active development scene. Interestingly, this is the only core that makes use of the extra SD card slot on your I/O port.
It's a theoretical but physical, real what-if console that targets new hardware and allows you to run kind of like Super Nintendo-ish looking games, like a PC Engine level games.
Yeah.
And if the Mister can run this with ease, that means that like for aftermarket games, the Mister is like one of the easiest gateways to that, and that's just amazing because then it opened a whole new market with that little device. So I really like this idea. I mean, just listen to me, because I'm sitting here right now being excited for Spectrum stuff, and just a few years ago, that would be a great cause of concern, because like Alzheimer runs in my family. But it's thanks to the Mister now that, like, no, it's a viable option, and I can play specky stuff and not feel bad about it.
Moving on to Japanese computers, I'd like to think that maybe they're easier to get a handle on. Let's look at the MSX first.
Throw the water.
So the MSX core contains hardware emulation for like the original MSX, MSX2, MSX2 Plus, Turbo R. And these are actually quite different machines, and since the MSX also uses like tapes and ROM cassettes and diskettes and even laser discs in some cases, you just know that this can be an interesting but challenging core. And I think it's been challenging until fairly recently, where I've seen some updates with like the virtual hard drives and making it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I struggled with it a lot early on. But recent virtual hard drive images have made it much easier to get into games, at least.
Yeah, so I still think that this is a core that would benefit from a bit more of an expansive and better message UI option, since between the system and game mediums, the MSX can become probably the most vivid and interesting machine you've ever experienced. Just tons of games on there, tons of software.
If you want to take a deep dive into what's good on the MSX and the benefits of the different hardware revisions, Displaced Gamers has an absolutely top-of-the-line video on the subject that I cannot recommend enough. Next, we were originally going to talk about the NEC PC88 core, but, it is really, really new. So it's probably for the best that we give it time to mature first. Instead, let's jump over to my personal favorite computer core, the Sharp X68000.
I don't know if you noticed, Corey, but if you look at my Twitter handle and stuff, you might recognize that the NEC computers have a pretty special place in my heart. So I'm sure one day we can return to this as they mature, because I think there's a lot to talk about. PC 88 and 98 and things like this. And it makes me excited what can be done. But rather than sit here and say what it can't do, I'd rather wait till it's in a place where we can talk about what it can do. Now, what is exciting to talk about, though, is the x68 core, because that's been in various stages of development over the last couple of years. And I mean, they got a huge overhaul.
I already had a core over here, and they wavered all the shit. All I had to go to was a fucking goddamn doctor's appointment. I was the only catch with the doctor.
Rough edges around here, but it's in great shape overall. I was quite surprised by this.
There really isn't a ton to cover here, at least option-wise. You can load .d88 floppy disk files and SASA hard drive images, which tend to load a lot faster than floppy disks. CRT output is definitely odd, but it was the same way on original hardware. It outputs at both 15 kHz and 31 kHz, so you'll need a multi-sync monitor to get the most out of it. My 480p capable L5 series PVMs work okay with it for the most part, as long as you set the video frequency to original in the core's audio and video settings. I still get these little squiggles though.
I'm gonna let you finish, but listen, we need to talk about just how awesome the games are on this machine, because there's some really amazing games on this that are completely mind-blowing, and not enough people know the magic of x68.
Yeah, the music is what really hooked me here. The first time I tried out Bosconian, I got literal goosebumps from how good the music was. Some games use the MT32 Pi to take things to an astronomical level. I initially got one of these to use with the AO486 core, but the X68000 is where it was really worth the effort.
That's it, there you go.
So for someone like myself who doesn't really have a real grasp on the games that came out for the X68000, what are some titles do you think that people should seek out?
Man, there's so many. But like Asuka 120, Mad Stalker, of course. You have stuff like Geograph Seal, which is an early jumping flash thingy with incredible music. Aqualus. There's a lot of cool stuff on the X68. This is a core where I would sit down and just whatever sounds interesting, load it up, see what we get, because it's just magical to look through this library. There's a lot of shooters, though. A lot of shooters. And I'm not good at shooters.
Thanks for your help with that. I have excruciatingly little real-world experience with any of those platforms, and there's no way I'd be able to show them off properly.
Oh, it's my pleasure, buddy. And I mean, my takeaway from this is basically that while the Mister is a fantastic device, and I'm pretty impressed by what's already been done here, I think these microcomputers are a little bit of a different beast from the consoles. They do need a different amount of customization, just due to how the sound works, the graphics, all these things. And I think perhaps this scrollable UI that's there now, perhaps it's a little bit too intimidating, especially for those who are not used to these machines, to get into. But what's here is fantastic. There's so much potential, and I had a lot of fun checking out microcomputers on the Mister, and I would definitely keep tabs on this development and help out make this experience even better so that people can still enjoy these fantastic machines. Thanks, Corey.
The new Sensodyne Clinical White gives 2 shades whiter teeth, 24/7 sensitivity protection. I recommend it.
How am I supposed to open this?
We're calling on all late-night coders, early morning gamers, self-proclaimed space geeks, stargazing science junkies, and especially square peg and round hole type thinkers to shape the only force created for the 21st century.
So consider this your invitation